I said it because it's 5.
Right, yeah. Etc.
What is that?
It's Christmas.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah.
Oh,
Isn't that
right.
whatever the fuck that song's
Oh,
called?
right. But there's not a thing that we're like we hum a song, but to us it sounds.
Yes.
But
Oh, is that one of those?
Yeah, I was yeah. Well,
Really?
no, I knew what it was, but I was just pretending because I was playing up for that joke.
For comic effect.
The comic effect
Very
for that joke
good.
that the listeners have no awareness of. So.
I reckon the listeners are rolling around on the
Yes,
floor with
right,
laughter
yes.
at home amongst the tinsel
Yes.
and the wrapping paper.
Merry Christmas, Clive.
Merry Christmas, Ron.
Yes, Merry Christmas in the wood, in the magic morning wood.
That's right. We've relocated temporarily to a Lapland wood
Right? Yeah.
just for Christmas.
Right. Okay. So this is just as noisy as our last episode.
Right.
So, but we are in a different area of the wood.
Yeah, well, we're in Lapland.
Yeah, we're in Lapland.
Yeah.
So yeah. Which is a Santa reference, I think, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And-
I'm
oh,
not.
there goes Santa right now. He's just running
Yes,
past
yes.
her.
Well, he's Henry, isn't he?
Right.
So, yes. So today on the Magic Morning Wood, this is the Magic Morning Wood.
Yes.
By the way.
Yes.
That's Ron Scott over there.
Yeah, and that's Clive Davis or Davies, if you
No,
will.
not all. It's David.
Spelled Davies, but it's pronounced Davis
Right. So
for some unknown reason.
on this episode, exciting Yuletide episode,
Right.
we had an idea almost as bad as doing
Also, your
three.
idea or something.
Well, was it?
Yeah. you tend to do a lot of bullying me that you have absolutely no memory of it whatsoever. You're like, let's do all 5 Saturday Night Deadly Nights. I'm like, well, yes, that's what we're doing. It's
In that tone of voice. Right.
But of course with a Welsh accent,
Yes,
which I can't
yes.
do. So. And I was like,
Ron suffers from a certain amount of victimhood, you may have noticed.
Yeah, so,
But after hanging out with him a bit, somewhat justifiably, I've
however,
come to learn.
However, I'm on the other end of the spectrum, which is that where like, if I'm forced to choose, I end up like taking a long time to choose because I'm sort of have a difficulty choosing a choice. And so so
need a
that's
bit of
why
help.
sometimes I'm okay being bullied in this case,
Yes.
because I'm like,
Well,
all right, sure, that sounds fine.
Plus our general kind of SM relationship
Right,
in general.
exactly, yeah.
So
I bend over you.
yeah, in idea almost as bad as watching 3 Steven Seagal
Oh yeah,
films.
yeah. So there's another example of the.
We've gone Silent Night, Deadly Night. All 5.
all
1 to
5.
5.
1 to 5, yeah.
To be fair, I didn't make you watch the remake.
Oh, is there a remake?
There's a Silent Night from 2012, which is kind of a remake of the first one.
Oh, really? Because
Yeah.
as I was watching these, I was like, I'm so surprised they haven't rebooted this series. But they have.
Be
Okay.
surprised no more on.
Okay, so they did.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Which I did see, and I really don't remember anything about it, but I think it was probably not very good.
I mean, it had to be better than the actual one, isn't it?
Well, anyway, we'll get to that.
Okay,
Don't
well,
spoil
we'll
it,
see.
right.
Anyway.
So we're kicking off with Silent Night, Deadly Night, an American
Original.
film from 1984, directed by one Charles E. Sellier Jr.,
Right.
who also made one of those, 80s kind of teen sex comedy things the same year called Snowballin'. Which I've never actually seen. Have you ever seen Snowballin'?
No,
Ron?
I don't believe I have.
I looked it up, and it seemed like one of those, you know those ones in those days that would have disappointed you because you would have rented it,
Right.
and it has like no tits in it.
Right.
Like it would have been vaguely teenagers up to hijinks, but
Right,
there's
right,
no
right.
nudity.
Right,
It was one of those.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So
Well, certainly he made up for that lack of tits
Yes.
in this movie.
yes. So a pox on ye, people who make erotic films without any tits in. Back in the day when this first came out, Silent Night, Deadly Night, this was actually quite the, the scandal. I believe Siskel and Ebert condemned
they
it.
hated it. Yeah,
Right.
So apparently, yes.
But not just because it was crap film, but like the whole idea of
Yeah.
the Santa Claus killer. Spoiler. Well, kind of.
Is it?
Not really. No. Anyway, that whole thing was apparently, shocking to many, and there was pickets and things, and
Oh, really?
which is amazing considering it wasn't the first time it had been done. And before, even on the Wood, we've talked about You Better Watch Out, right?
Right.
Which is probably the best of these Santa killer films.
Right,
isn't it?
right. Yeah.
But this is certainly the most well known.
Right.
I think if you mention Killer Santa films, people will think, oh, Silent Night, Deadly Night. Even people who've never seen it,
Right.
the title is kind of a memorable title. Right. And to be fair, even though this film didn't come up with it, I like the concept of the Killer Santa Claus. It's a good idea. It's a good idea. Sure. And it ties in a little bit with the, you better watch out, of course, does a much better job of this, but the whole, if you're not, you're nice thing, punishing the bad kids.
Yeah, right.
So, had you seen Silent Night, Deadly Night before, Ron?
I may have, but I had no memory of it whatsoever. Of course, I knew about them, but maybe I've seen clips of it when I was younger, but I didn't remember much about it. So it was it was basically it was essentially a first watch.
Okay. So so we got 5 films to get through. So let's see if we can make it brisk.
Right. Yes.
Yes. So this one starts off with you know what you're in for, because it's the soundtrack is kind of gentle, and then you got the Silent Night, and then Deadly Night in blood.
I do want to say,
with the synth sting.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the soundtrack for this movie.
Oh, yeah?
Because it seemed to be like, if someone came to me, I have absolutely no music talent or prowess whatsoever. If someone came to me and said, hey, I'm making this horror movie, can you make some music for me? Having absolutely no music talent or ability whatsoever, sure, no problem.
Right.
And I would get my synthesizer and I would go mash as many keys as I could at once, and that would be what I would give them.
Right.
And that was exactly what the soundtrack for this movie was. And I was like, that's perfect.
Have you ever watched the sitcom Peep Show?
No, I haven't yet, but I know about it.
You would really like it.
I think many people, you're like the 10th person to
it's on Netflix. It's very easy. But anyway, there's one episode of that where they're commissioned, they don't have any experience, but they're commissioned to do like a horror film soundtrack, and it's like someone just like pressing one key on the and saying like, the longer the note, the bigger the dread.
That's about it, yeah. But this one, it wasn't a note, it was just like mashing as many keys as you could possibly could.
But it does make me smile when the Deadly Night comes up in blood font.
Yes. And it drips.
Yes, and the synth goes nuts. It's kind of okay. But I have to admit, I mean, we kind of get to it, but it's one of those films, actually, it probably benefits, this film in general probably benefits from a distance. Like, I would imagine if you went to see this on a first run back in '84, you would have probably thought, for fuck's sake. Especially since it was surrounded by all these other slasher films. I think it benefits a little bit from nostalgia.
I
because
think so,
it's very '84.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
Yeah, very much, yeah.
So anyway, So basically, it's little Billy when he's a kid, right? He goes with his parents to visit Grandad in the old folks' home, and Grandad freaks him out, little Billy, because he seems to be like he doesn't speak or anything, right? He just sat there in his chair, and oh, poor dad or whatever. As soon as his parents leave the room, he's like, so it's Christmas, huh? Santa's gonna get you, right? And it kind of freaks him out, like the little Billy. So that sets up, he's already scared of Santa. And then on the way home, late at night, they bump into, basically there's a killer dressed as Santa Claus, who's he's done like a liquor store holdup, right? And he's shot the owner, and then he's on the run from the police, and then little Billy and his parents are kind of driving home, and they come across Santa on the side of the road, and he shoots the father, and I think he kind of, I'm not sure if he rapes the mother or not.
This is what I'm talking about with the he made up for the tits. So he takes the mom out of the car, puts her on the ground, rips open her shirt, and then cuts her throat. So there's absolutely no reason for him to take the shirt off. He doesn't fondle her breasts. He doesn't actually say anything about them. He doesn't like rape her. He just literally rips up her shirt and then cuts her throat. And I was like, well, it was hilariously gratuitous.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, that's what you want from this kind of film. Yes. So little Billy witnesses this, and of course he's traumatized, and he has a baby brother as well, which becomes important later on.
Yes.
Little Ricky. Right? Yeah. So Billy is sent to an orphanage, right, which is run by the Mother Superior, played by Lillian Chavan, and nuns and things, and so at the orphanage, he kind of learns the value of punishment, right, from the Mother Superior. So he witnesses like another sister getting it on with some guy, and the Mother Superior finding them and you're naughty,
whips him with the belts and stuff.
She's a. I think she's related to the Penguin and the Blues Brothers, right? She's that kind of very ominous.
Right.
Actually, you very rarely see like. My image of nuns from the movies is they're fucking scary.
Yeah, they're always scary in the movie. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Unless they're Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
Yes. I guess. So
they're caught in the act.
Yeah.
Back in the habit.
Back in the habit. We got this long sequence in when he basically. And he grows up, and but he's has this lifelong fear of Santa Claus. Right? There's one quite hilarious scene in the orphanage where he has to sit on Santa's lap at Christmas time. He basically punches him out. Right?
Yeah. But that's
a very strong little boy.
Yeah. But the nuns are like, "Shut up, fucking kid!" Right? And like I was like, it was so hilarious. Like, you better appreciate children. I was like, I've never met anyone wanting a kid to sit on Santa's lap more than these nuns.
Right.
And I was actually a little surprised that they would even have a Santa Claus at like a Christian orphanage anyway. I mean, wouldn't be the focus be on Jesus? I don't know. Like, would they do the Santa type of thing? Is this supposed to be like the, who is this person that took the focus away from our Lord Jesus?
Right.
Could it be Satan? The Dana Carvey thing, right? So
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a Dana Carvey routine?
Yeah, you never heard that. So it's like,
is that from SNL or something?
Yeah. Dana Carvey played the church lady, and he would at the Christmas, and so he'd have the letters Santa on a magnet, and he would move the letters so he could it be Satan? Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Anyway.
Turtle. You have to bring up Dana Carvey.
Dana Carvey has moments, just not that movie.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Whatever that was. A Master
of None. Or no.
Disguise.
Master of Disguise, yeah. Master of None is
which I never actually saw,
right.
But I saw the trailer a million times. Did you ever actually see it?
I think I did when it first came out.
Was it as awesome as the trailer suggests?
I really have no memory of it, so I can't.
Right.
I'm almost certain it wasn't. So.
Right. So, fast forward 10 years later, so I guess he's supposed to be 20, somewhere.
19, I think 19 or something, yeah. Because he's still in the orphanage, so he's not...
Right, yeah, he looks a bit... Yeah, I was wondering about that, because we don't see him in the orphanage as he's grown up, but when you introduced him, you're thinking, where...
Because
does he stay in the same bed?
Well, because because he gets the job. The nuns get him the job at the toy store, right? And
yes.
So so they're like, he's and they're like, I don't need a boy. I need a man.
But he's a big lad, right?
So but that's the thing is that you don't see him yet, right? Because he's like, well, I don't want a kid. So he's still a kid. So I assume he's like a teenager, probably 17, 18.
I suppose, yeah.
Right? He's not 20 yet, because he would be, so. But then he turns around and you see him, he's a big, strapping, handsome guy, right?
Yes, he's an Aryan wet dream, isn't he? Robert Brian Wilson.
Right.
And, so he gets this job working in this department store, right? Coming up to Christmas. And you get a bit of a 80s montage of, what a nice guy he is. Helping out and turning down an offer of alcohol from a co-worker. I'll stick with my milk. He literally holds up a carton and kind of flirting with the nice girl who works there, blah, blah, blah. And of course things come crashing down because he's forced to play Santa, the department store Santa.
Yeah, the toy store.
Right. There's an odd scene where it's funny. There's the scene where he's playing Santa and they're putting the kids on his lap, and he's basically really freaking out to these kids. Like, fucking sit still, because Santa's gonna punish you. And to me, it looks bad.
Yeah.
But somehow in the movie, when the kids are looks terrified at Santa, and the parents are like, "Oh, isn't he great with kids?"
What a great.
and the department store manager's kind of pleased with himself. Yeah. It's just a very strange scene.
Yeah. Well, among many other strange scenes.
Yes, but of course that comes. Something. Oh yeah. So basically, we hear a horrible song. Getting back to the soundtrack, during this montage.
where they obviously have made up their own
Yeah,
Christmas
it's-
carol
it-
that has this sort of like.
Oh no, not that one. I remember, that
Oh,
one.
no.
You're like, I've never heard that before.
No, they obviously wrote that for the movie because it has this sort of like vague, like sinister undertone, right?
But there's another song that's on the soundtrack, which is something like something along the lines of "On the warm side of the door, it's always Christmas" or something like that.
Oh, you mean? Oh, yeah, it's the '80s rock montage song. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It was totally like every '80s movie montage. Like from the sports movies, they always had this sort of like montage to this sort of like real like you're the best, or like the you know like it's getting stronger, like all those ones. It's exactly one of those songs that they made. It's so funny. I loved
the warm side of the door.
Whatever that means.
Yes. But eventually, so it all goes wrong because the other guy who works at the department store, who's always bugging a Billy, right? He's like, I actually don't know what his problem is.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he takes the
He's just the naughty guy.
Yeah, naughty.
Yeah,
so he takes the nice girl who Billy has a bit of a thing for back into the stock room, and again some top ripping for some more fantastic gratuitous tit action.
Yeah.
Good tits in this film, to be fair.
Right. But again, like they're supposed to be like kind of like flirting with each other and getting on, and
then he
just
rips.
rips.
Yes, and goes, "Oh," and then she's like, "Oh," outraged, understandably.
Yeah.
But then, of course, she tries to fight him off, and it turns into a rape scene. And then, of course, Billy witnessing this flashbacks on what happened when he was a child, and that's the straw that broke the camel's back. Right? And then it's naughty, right? Naughty, and he's dressed. So here we go. He's already dressed as Santa. He has
a sort of mental break.
Yes, and here we go. It's Santa Claus killer time.
Right. Yes.
So now it's just a succession of
him killing people.
Yes.
Right? Who he thinks is naughty. Right.
Yeah.
So he kills the guy who was trying to do the rape.
Yeah.
The one that was kind of tormenting him at work and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the girl who he was flirting with earlier, who I thought was going to be kind of like a bigger role, was going to be kind of like bring him back or something.
Yeah.
He just kills her too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She's like, "You're crazy," and he kills her.
Yeah.
And then goes
kills
off,
the manager, kills the other woman who works there, who was singing the made up
Christmas song.
Yeah.
And then and then he just kills a bunch of random people.
Yes. Well. Yes, you're quite right. But there are a couple of highlights.
A few of them. I'm sorry. A few of the movies are starting to run together. I'm trying to remember which one this one was.
Well,
was this the moose head?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
this one I didn't. Yeah.
This is the best bit of the film, I think. There's two highlights for me. I mean, not exactly. I suppose they are gore highlights, but this film is, by today's standards, you wouldn't consider it gory.
No,
really,
not
at
all.
all, right? But so basically, the first one is Linnea Quigley. If you remember Linnea Quigley from the 80s, she's the one who's making it on a. Really, you don't remember Linnea? Wow. Okay. She would have been one of those girls who sparked one of Ron's fans. That's there. She one of those 80s actresses who sparked a million pubescent boys.
What movie?
Oh fuck! What was she? She was in all those things like Night of the Demons and Creepazoids and all those Fred Olney with Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers. All those things in the 80s. No, she never played a part of your childhood.
I don't know what movie. Maybe if I saw her.
Okay. Well, you did see her.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if I saw her again, but she didn't. I didn't remember her from anything.
Okay. To be honest, she's very young in this. So
the one that's in the house, right?
Yeah, she's on the pool table.
She was very cute, but
yeah. Great rack as well, and the tightest denim cutoffs you've ever seen. It's just like that scene's kind of awesome for that alone.
Right.
But then she's impaled on antlers on like a deer head on the wall, right?
Deer head,
So that basically Santa just picks her up and chucks her on the antlers.
Right, yeah.
And that's quite a I understand why that became a bit of an iconic thing.
Right.
So that's good. And Linnea Quigley fans will eat that up. And then the other one I quite like as well. There's like a bunch of teenagers who are way too old for sledging. But they
Oh, yeah.
decide...
This was one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, this is good.
I mean, this scene. I'd written down some notes because I wanted to remember this, but I
Yeah, well,
didn't
basically,
right
there's a couple of
But-
guys, and they're like, oh, we're going to go sledding. You're thinking, how old are you? You're like...
well, first of all, they're like, oh, I remember what made me laugh. I don't know why this one element. It was a very small element, but he goes, "Hey, look at all this like virgin snow." He goes, and then the joke was like, "Yeah, well, that's the only kind you'll ever get."
Yeah.
Was that a put down? Like I don't really understand what kind of a put like.
Yeah, it's a peculiar one, isn't it? 'Cause it's like...
But then you look around and they're standing and there's obviously been trampled by a million people, right? I was like, where is this virgin? Right?
Yeah.
For some reason, just the use of the virgin snow.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
In that,
You can tell it's written by people much older than the characters.
Right, yeah.
So like if you'd have said something like
Maybe really
pussy, and that's
Yeah.
pussy, you
Yeah.
understand that, you get that. But yeah, the whole virgin thing is not like a teenage boy's thing.
Well, yeah, but I mean, a virgin snow. But then they said virgin snow, and you would expect. I mean, a virgin snow means that no one has ever been on it, right?
Yeah.
So, but the fact that it was obviously trampled
Right.
by the entire crew, cast and crew for the last like 3 days, right? I was like, obviously, like it was just so. Obviously,
Right.
like made up.
Plus,
anyway,
they're in
for some reason that made me
their
laugh.
like early 20s or
Yeah,
something.
and so the other thing is that like, oh, it's Christmas Eve. It's gonna be we're the only ones out here. No one else can be out here. And then suddenly, jumping out of the darkness, there's 2 other random guys, right?
Who are even older than they are.
Yeah, and we're also
And they,
poorly written.
and of course, yeah, they're like, we're going to beat you up and steal your sleds.
Yeah.
And they go, what
Like
the
Christmas
fuck?
Eve, like, what is happening
Yeah,
here? Like,
yeah.
you guys just hanging out in the woods and
Yeah.
busy waiting for some other people to bring out their sled. I mean, like,
I like this. This scene is just
it's so funny,
so dopey
So-
from beginning to end. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
basically the guys who go down the sled, and like the second guy who goes out,
Yeah.
he ends up getting decapitated, right?
yeah.
And Santa comes out with an
Comes
axe.
out, yeah.
And then the guy at the bottom who went down the sled first, he's waiting, and the
Yeah.
kind of headless corpse turns up on the sled.
But I wanted to like submit like his scream when he sees the head of the course to like one of those like exquisite acting kind of like
Yeah.
contest. He just like he's like
Yes.
just freaks out, and it's like, but I was sort of there like, if I was in that situation, at first you'd be kind of confused, like, wait, what is that? You wouldn't even know what it is you're looking at, but he was
Right.
just like immediately terrified, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
anyway, I just thought that whole scene was quite,
Yes,
quite
that,
amusing.
and
It was
that's
very fun.
and that's kind of when it peaks.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
a few other bits in the film which hint at, okay, the people who made this film aren't quite. They
They're
have
idiots.
some
There's
sort
some
of-
sense of humor.
Yeah,
I think,
there's the deer antler thing, which is quite funny if you have that kind of sense of humor, and the decapitation is kind of hilarious,
Yeah, yeah.
oddly. And then, because the cops are on the lookout for the Santa, there's like one scene where there's like some extremely what's the word in English?
serious.
Diligent
Diligent.
father has decided to actually dress up as Santa and
Oh,
go
yes.
outside the house and go up a ladder and go through the window. And you're thinking, fuck, that's a proper dad.
Well, especially because his daughter was sleeping. Like,
Yes.
what is the point?
So he's ho ho, and of course the cops go past and they, what the fuck? And they're like, they go in and they point guns and
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and but I was thinking this turned out pretty traumatic for the little girl, because the little girl's Daddy, so that's her introduction to the world of Santa doesn't exist. So I thought,
So it was like, but if she could do that, it was Eddie. Why was he even doing the whole thing in the first place? If she knew
Right.
it was him already.
so there's a few little bits like that which are quite funny, but then I think it peaks after then it gets into the. It gets a bit boring.
Yeah,
when
yeah,
they're
the
just kind of
repetitive
tracking that.
slasher,
Yeah.
yeah.
And eventually he turns up at the orphanage and the kids are in there in danger.
Well, then you missed the other Santa Claus that they show up at the orphanage, right?
Yes, and they shoot him,
So
yeah.
but there's another Santa Claus that just looks. You would see him from the back. He's going
Right.
towards the orphanage, and the police show up, and they're like, "Hey, freeze!" And then they just shoot this guy in the Santa without even like saying anything to him. And it's like, "Oh no, it was Father O'Malley in the Santa costume or whatever it was, right?"
Right.
And so this is the other favorite part was like, police is like, "Oh yeah, I just killed a priest for no reason." Oh well, but there really is a serious person coming, right? It was like there's like no like problem with the fact that he's just killed this priest for no reason.
Right,
So-
right.
Anyways,
Yeah, and then it's very anticlimactic when
Yeah.
Billy eventually turns up, and then
to shoot him.
The Mother Superior is like, there's no such thing as Santa Claus. Again, destroying Christmas.
I felt bad for all the kid actors.
What are they? You can imagine them between shots, like asking, "Whoa, what's up?
Wait, is it true? Is really?
Yes.
Oh, that's okay, kids. It's just a movie, right?
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So. And he's shot dead, and then there's a kind of a bit of a mirror of the awesome opening credits sequence, isn't there? There's the final pan up to a little boy who saw Santa being shot, and it's kind of, those reveals in giant bug or giant crocodile movies or something where the monster's being killed and then there's the pan and there's like an egg.
Yes,
that kind of thing. So it's like that, right?
Or the Little Shop of Horrors. The seedling.
But it's even more stupid, illogical. Where the camera pans up and the little boy who turns out to be
his
brother Ricky goes.
Naughty. Yeah, and here's the thing.
And the synth goes.
Right. But here's the thing: is that I think, which was I guess one of the many failings of this movie, which is that I think you were supposed to know that was Ricky, the younger brother.
Yeah, I don't know.
But they didn't introduce him as that in any you didn't see him. As the character.
There's only one.
There is one scene I think when they're in there, but
in front of the orphanage. And Billy's getting told off, and another kid says to Ricky, "Oh, your brother's a nut job," or something. Don't say that. But apart from that, they don't even interact.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think unless there was something that was cut, or that was just one of the failings that was like, oh, Ricky sees his brother die, and so therefore it's his. But you're like, wait a second, who's that kid? Right?
Well,
you think it's some random kid, right?
Yeah, it could be anyone really. So I'm wondering if it's a retroactive thing that they decided.
No, because I looked in the credits, and I think that kid is credited as young Ricky. Right. So.
But no, you're quite right. They don't make it explicit, right? So anyway, shot by Henning Schellerup, who directed some things in the 70s, like The Black Bunch and Sweet Jesus Preacher Man. Charles Diakop plays the Psycho Santa at the beginning, and I think that's me done for my notes. Did you have fun with this film, Ron?
I had fun. I mean, as an 80s slasher film, it was pretty run-of-the-mill slant.
Yes, it's a shame it's not a bit more. It's a bit better.
There was some fun. I mean, there's
much more boring slashers out there.
Yeah.
And certainly
there was some fun stuff.
Certainly go out and see You Better Watch Out first. It's much better.
It's more of a serious movie. This one's sort of at times didn't really take itself too seriously. It's sort of like it felt like it was. It had a little bit of a.
It's one of those
like a wink to the audience.
One of those slight missed opportunities for me, where the moments where it is fun is so much fun. You wish it was like that all the way through. So there's a kind of. But you're in luck, listener, because that brings us to
part two,
which is my favorite.
My favorite. I think so too. Yeah.
This is where this is. In an inverse world where bad is good, it peaks.
It really does.
Right. And to be honest, this was the reason I wanted to do this.
For this one, I see.
And now you understand why you can't really do the second one without knowing about the first one.
Well, yeah, I guess.
To appreciate the audacity of it.
I see.
Yeah, so Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 from 1987. Directed stroke edited, which is important, by one Lee Harry. And this one, this is a piece of work, this one.
A piece of work.
Yeah. So this begins...
You got to start with the main actor.
Eric Freeman.
Wow, Eric Freeman. What an actor.
Yes. It's funny. One of the funny. Normally, I don't find this. I find it nonsense. But one IMDb trivia thing, which I thought was quite funny. The top one was Eric Freeman's eyebrows go up and down 130 times. Someone's actually counted because it is. Yeah, it's a very eyebrowy acting.
Man. I had read about the eyebrows before I saw the movie.
Okay.
And so I was watching for it, and I was like, oh my god, there's a lot of eyebrows in that movie.
So Eric Freeman turns out to be, he's Ricky, now grown up, right? And he's in some kind of asylum or something.
And he's also like a big buff, kind of
even more so, I think, than the Billy.
Guy,
And on Christmas Eve, of course, there's one in a long line of psychiatrists has gone in to interview him, right, and to get his...
On Christmas Eve for some random reason.
Of course. Great idea to provoke him on the one day of the year. Yeah. And, this is... So basically the first 35-40 minutes, which is close to half of the running time, is lifted from Silent Night.
Just like the exact same, like big giant.
It's
like
it's
full
greatest
scenes.
hits.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say don't bother with the first one.
First one. That's why I said you didn't even need one because most of it was already in the scene.
Yeah, all the best bits. Linnea Quigley's there. The sled, everything is in this version.
So it's supposed to be ostensibly it's supposed to be him telling the story of what his brother did to the psychiatrist. It's supposed to be flashbacks, but it's not just a flashback, but it's like the full
just footage.
It's just the full scene, right?
From as well.
And of course, how would his brother
exactly
even know any of this stuff? Right?
Things he couldn't possibly have seen. But narrated by him as well, in exquisite. That wasn't the last time I was just like
he is. He's the best worst actor. He's like one of my new favorites. I go to see something else with him.
One of my favorite. His delivery is great. One of my favorites is
he tried really hard to be this like cool, aloof kind of guy, but he saw it in a. It was almost like if someone was trying to explain what a cool, aloof person acted like to an alien, and then the alien tried to simulate based on just like a verbal instructions.
Right, an alien from planet Eyebrow. And eventually when they run out of footage and they, we have to shoot some new stuff. So then, to be honest, I'm not quite sure...
What happened?
Is he in the asylum? So he's in the asylum when he was released as well. He ends up getting adopted by this family, right? And then he tells about how he peeps on some kind of lovers, right? And then that turns into rape, and that triggers him for some reason, and again naughty. And then he runs over the guy who was raping the girl with his Land Rover several times. And the girl thanks him.
Yeah,
she's not freaked out. Thanks, you're my savior. But then, from what I understand, is this the bit where he mentions it to the psychiatrist, and he goes, "I never heard about these murders," and those are the only. Well, so you're thinking,
why is he here?
I don't
think that's the reason why he's there, right?
But what I like is there's a bit where the psychiatrist is making notes, right, and he writes, "Red car," and then Eric Freeman, "Red car, good point." And to be slightly fair to Eric Freeman, it is one of those things where you're like, I'm not quite sure how you're supposed to deliver this style. Oh, right, I'm going to have to stop. Hang on, I'm going to take a phone call. Sorry for the interruption there, listeners. So, Silent Night, Dead Night 2. Eric Freeman being interviewed by the psychiatrist. Yes, so he's also... he's done a whole bunch of murders, it seems.
Apparently,
yeah. So the other one, which is probably the best, one of the best death scenes, I think, is there's some kind of loan shark or something, right, in an alley beating up some guy, and then Eric Freeman, Ricky, comes along, and this loan shark kind of has a go at him, and he ends up shoving an umbrella right through him and then opening it. That's pretty good. He also has a girlfriend. He goes on a cinema date with his girlfriend.
Yes.
Which we get to see more footage from Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yes, he's actually watching the movie.
As if they hadn't had enough of it already.
As if there would be no trigger of him watching literally the movie of his life.
But what's quite funny, again, hints that they might be slightly aware of tongue-in-cheek.
I think so.
There's a trailer for something called Chaos, the Motion Picture, which sounds very much like a kind of satire of big budget kind of explosions and then so this is quite funny because there's some asshole in the back of the theatre, right, which is clearly just a small screening room.
Yes.
Right. But there's like a guy in the back who's just kind of shouting shit at the screen.
That guy is also one of the worst actors I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's great. And his comments or observations are like really pathetic.
You could tell that he was like improvising that.
Yes, I think so. Yeah,
he's a terrible improviser.
And of course, at this point, we're introduced to Jennifer's old flame, Chip.
Chip, yes.
Who turns up and he wants her back, and he's a proper dick.
Yeah.
Right. And he ends up with jumper cables attached to his teeth.
Right.
Until his eyeballs explode, which is quite a fun scene. And then Eric Freeman goes on a kill rampage. I guess this is what ended him up in the loony bin.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah.
So he kills some cops, and of course the famous garbage day blows away some guy. And there's one bit here which is actually quite impressed with. There's a stunt, right, where there's a car coming down the street, and he decides to shoot at the driver.
Right.
And then it ends up going to the side, and
it explodes really fast.
No, it mounts. It mounts like it's obviously like a ramp or something, but it's supposed to be like it's disguised as like roadworks or something.
Right.
But the thing is, either Eric Freeman or his stunt double, if you notice in that scene, he's standing right in the middle of the street,
right,
and the car goes like inches past him, like on its side. And you're thinking, fuck, that's like Hong Kong kind of stunt. Right. So that was quite impressive. Yes, so eventually, of course, the psychiatrist ends up dead.
Right,
and Eric Freeman escapes, goes to find the Mother Superior, who is now played by a different actress, which they've tried to disguise by giving her like a semi-disfigured face.
I was like, did I miss something? Why is the Mother Superior suddenly disfigured for some reason?
But what's really strange is they've clearly attempted to write it in, but in a really unconvincing way. They said she's had a stroke, and you're thinking a stroke doesn't give you
change your
like I mean, you might be slightly you might have a slight
exactly.
droop.
But it looks like she's
been burned or something. Yeah. So maybe she had a stroke and fell on the cooker or something. Yeah. She gets decapitated.
Right.
Naughty this.
It's a great line.
Yes.
Great lines.
Yeah, and then it just kind of runs out of steam a bit, really. Yeah. And then you get some really slow end credits to eat up even more time.
Right.
Yeah. So this is...
It's really about, 20 minutes of actual new footage in the entire movie.
Shocking in its audacity, but a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah.
Silent Night, Deadly Nights 2 is the one to go for, I think.
That's the one. Eric Freeman makes that movie. He's great.
Yeah. I think he's been in some other things like bits and pieces, but I think this is his magnum opus, right?
Right.
Sure. Right? Yeah.
Nothing. Let's keep it.
Okay. Sorry, more fan interruption.
More fans.
Anyway, even here in Lapland.
Yeah. On to part 3.
Yes. So Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, Better Watch Out,
right,
from 1989. And this, one of those strange ones, this almost seems as if it was conceived as a non-Silent Night, Deadly Night film.
Right, yeah.
But
as 4 and 5 were as well.
And then kind of retro. But in their case, this one seemed like in the... Well, we'll get to 4 and 5, but 4 and 5 don't even pretend they are. Whereas this one kind of goes to length, so I think it actually was supposed to be a Silent Night, Deadly Night 3. Or...
So why did you say it wasn't?
Because I was thinking about it. If they went back and did reshoots, if they added, for instance... So basically the story is there's a blind girl, right? Played by Samantha Scully, and she's taking part in some kind of dream experiment.
Right. She's psychic.
Maybe.
ESP or
this guy, this Dr. Richard Baimer is... And it turns out she has a psychic link with a guy who has a plastic dome see-through plastic dome
Right.
for a skull.
Right.
So he has an exposed brain,
Right.
played by Bill Moseley, who was chopped up in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Right.
Which is quite a kind of cool image.
Right. Right. But I'm assuming that I thought they had always intended it to be like this. It was just that was they were trying to explain why Ricky isn't dead, right? So they're trying to bring him back by putting him in this coma, and then they're like, oh, it'd be cool to do this exposed brain. So
it's Ricky's brain, isn't it? Has been put into.
Oh, is it? I thought it was just that he was in a coma.
No, because they mentioned that they took the brain out and kept the brain alive, but I have no idea who the other person they put it in.
I expected it was just this. It was just Ricky again, but he had been in a coma, and they'd saved him, but that they had to kind of save the brain by going by cutting out the skull or something.
You're right.
So.
To be honest, I was quite bored.
Yeah, it was quite a boring one.
It's quite a difficult one to keep your attention for this one. Yeah. Anyway, no. What I mean is, I think you're right. I think it was intended to be, but it's one of those things you can almost see how if some. Let's put it another way. Then, if I had read that this was originally made not as a silent night, and then they just did some reshoots, I would believe that.
So.
Because there's like.
Well, it's the first sort of attempt to. You get the impression that 2 was just sort of like someone who liked the first one and wanted to continue the story, but didn't have much money or much creativity. Whereas parts 3, 4, and 5 seemed like they had sort of inherited the title or the franchise, and that they were trying to shoehorn their own idea into it, right? And so they had this idea about this sort of like exposed brain guy who, is sort of like more like a zombie killer, kind of thing. And like, oh well, we have access to this. Like, so let's sort of shoehorn it in so that it's actually the guy who was killed at the end of that one, and then you could use it.
And there's some clips from the original.
To kind of tie it together. So, but it was more of like a psychic, zombie kind of thing, right?
So basically
but my impression of watching this one is that it was an attempt to take Ricky as just like a slasher film and to turn it into more of like a Jason Freddy type franchise. I thought it was not that it was not necessarily a totally different movie, but that they were trying to take the character of Ricky and make him more of like a
something a bit more substantial,
like a supernatural zombie, like something that they could keep repeating and bringing back over and over again for multiple sequels, which seemed like they were trying to make it into a bigger franchise than like a Jason or Freddy kind of ripoff.
It strikes me as more of an opportunity for directed by Monty Hellman, which is really surprising. I don't know if you're familiar with Monty Hellman. Monty Hellman's made some really interesting pictures going back to the 60s, and he made stuff like Tool and Blacktop and Cockfighter and lots of interesting movies. This is by far his worst film, I think. And it strikes me as someone like being offered, do you want to do a Silent Night, Deadly Night sequel? And then, if I can do whatever I want with it. So the blind girl, she ends up going to stay with grandma. Turns out she's an orphan. There was a plane crash. That's how she lost her sight, lost her parents. Goes with the brother and the brother's girlfriend, played by Laura Herring from Mulholland Drive, many years later. And then the Ricky or whoever character with the exposed brain, who hitchhikes in his smock with a hat to cover his exposed brain, and no one seems to think, why are you wondering about it? He just follows them there. It's really rather boring. It's boring. It's probably the most boring of the series, which is a shame, because in terms of filmmaking, it's probably the most kind of good looking, it's quite well put together.
Well, obviously they had more money probably for it, or literally more of an actual director. Or whatever.
And you got Robert Culp as a cop character, which he tries to do something interesting with it, but it's not really. He's supposed to be a kind of flippant, kind of world weary but it seems very grafted on. There's clips from The Terror with Boris Karloff and Jack Nicholson on a TV screen, and then the ending is a bit Scanners-y, in terms of who's in whose head, who survived.
Which is very scary, because Scanners is a horror movie.
Anyway, top joke though is the drunk Santa to the the Ricky in hospital. Who's your favourite singer? Perry Como.
Como. Oh yeah, I forgot about that guy.
And then Monty Hellman, after this, didn't direct a full feature again until 2010.
Really?
Road to Nowhere. Yeah, he directed a segment of that. I don't know if you ever saw that horror anthology, Trapped Ashes.
No.
He did like a short. Actually, it was a short film that was later put into the anthology about Stanley Kubrick. There was a few other things along the way, like producer credit, and he almost ended up directing Reservoir Dogs. Actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was an early fan of the script, and of course Quentin Tarantino was a big fan of Monty Hellman from his cult movies from the 60s, 70s. But I think
Tarantino just wanted to direct it himself.
yes. Yeah. Plus, I think he made a sale. I think maybe it was the script for Natural Born Killers, maybe, and then he had enough money to kind of hold out to direct it himself.
Right?
Yeah. So, so kind of a major disappointment, especially if you're a Monty Hellman fan at all. This is easily his most
I got the impression that it was an attempt to capitalize on the popularity of Jason and Freddy franchises at that time, at the late 80s. I think it was. I think they were trying to make.
You think?
I think they were trying to make like an iconic kind of like supernatural, unstoppable killer kind of thing, and that's what they wanted to do. I think it was because it was very kind of like he had a real kind of like like exposed brain. It was a real like horror movie kind of kind of image. They were trying to like a a pin face or pinhead.
Yeah,
pinhead, right?
but one of the main problems with Ricky though is. In this film, is he's quite boring. Like he doesn't say anything.
I don't disagree with you, but I think that I got the impression that was the intention.
And he's not very menacing either.
Well,
really.
Again, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying I felt
intention.
that was the intention. Yeah. So.
No, you might be right, but they really dropped the ball. But it's one of those weird things.
But like it's all like this whole attempt to make him of the zombies where he talks like that.
Like if you were going to be totally objective just in terms of filmmaking, it's easily more well made than either of the previous films.
Of course, yeah, of course.
But it's just boring. It's just really boring. I don't know. It never gets going. Right? It's an odd one. I'm not really quite sure why it just doesn't. So
nothing to say about that one then.
Move
on from that one.
And we go on to 1990 Initiation. Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 4, or aka Bugs in the UK, which is the title I first saw it under.
Right.
Yeah, so I think this is definitely a hijacking of a franchise.
Yes. I mean the fact that it's one examples of putting the subtitle before the actual title, right? Like putting Initiation first, it like almost proves that it was never actually intended to be. So it's like, and the fact that like there is almost nothing to do with Christmas or the holidays in this movie. Like you could tell that they obviously hijacked or inherited or took this sort of franchise, and then they're like, okay, well, it's a Christmas horror movie, so we got to put let's write like a scene where they talk about Christmas, or let's put a Christmas tree in the background, right? Like
there's a Christmas scene.
It's so tangential, like the Christmas element of it. So. It's pretty hilarious when you think about it that way. But.
It's this one's directed by Brian Yuzna and written by Woody Keith, who had worked. Woody Keith had written Brian Yuzna's film Society,
right?
Which Brian Yuzna is one of those interesting characters.
He did the Reanimator, right?
Yeah, he produced it.
Produced it, okay.
But as a director, a lot of his films are not very good.
Right.
I think the best one he directed either would have been Society or. The Dentist, if you remember.
No.
Corbin Burnson as a killer dentist.
Oh, wait, maybe I do remember.
Yeah, that wasn't bad. That wasn't
vaguely,
bad. But no, he seems to be more of a kind of, a finder of talent.
Right.
And then there was a period where he went to Spain for a while. He produced some films in Spain. And the last I heard of him was he was producing some stuff in Indonesia, actually. But yeah, he's one of those interesting characters who, if you see his name attached to something, it's kind of, that might be worth a look kind of thing. But he's not exactly the film's as director. The case in point, this one. Yeah. So this one is about.
Although I would say, in this one's defense, I mean, it was. I mean, the acting was terrible. The script was was abysmal and just a mess. A lot of it was a mess. But I would say what it did have going for it was some pretty decent special effects.
Screaming Mad George.
Screaming Mad George.
Yeah,
Right. So which I thought was like by the time I got to part 4, and I was like, okay, what are we in for here? And it was like not easy to find a copy of this movie either, right? And I was like, oh, this is gonna be really bad. But the special effects were actually pretty decent, even by today's standards.
Right.
Like, they were sufficiently gross and gross out and stuff like that. So it was like a lot of bugs and the bugs in the larva and stuff like that. The story and the acting was just a mess. It was just
Screaming Mad George's effects are always worth a look.
He did a good job.
Yeah. So this one's basically a woman falls off a roof and spontaneously combusts on the way down.
Yeah.
Fuck knows why.
No
I
way,
mean, nothing.
Even after the movie, you don't know.
No,
why.
you don't really understand what the fuck is going on. And there's a kind of woman played by Neith Hunter, who I believe used to be a model, and basically she has these kind of menial tasks on the local newspaper, I guess, the classified ads. And she wants to become a reporter. She wants to handle this story, but everyone in her office is a male chauvinist.
The pre-Me Too era.
Yes, to a cartoonish degree, right?
Like go get us a coffee.
Yes,
and they shut the door to her face.
Yes, including the editor played by Reggie Bannister of the Phantasm series.
Okay,
that was the guy, the Eli,
right.
Yeah, the editor. But eventually she does have a chance to. She decides to investigate herself, right? And then she ends up going to a bookshop in the building, was run by Maud Adams, and.
Which is like one of the first steps. Like, if she was doing research on something, why would she go to the library rather than going to buy books? Sort of like the first step was like, okay,
right, yeah. So it's basically she wants to find a book on spontaneous human combustion, and she ends up going to this bookshop, and it's run by Maud Adams, and she seems to have some. I mean, it's really not very well drawn. She's some vaguely feminist cult or something. And she has slight kind of predatory lesbian overtones about her, like she's making her moves on
which sort of cult,
and she's feeding her
lesbian entity
like insect snacks and putting things in her tea, and then she's throwing.
She's got these like insect or kind of like random, like really disgusting looking like snacks on their that people are eating. I was like, well, why would anyone eat that? Like, it doesn't even look like.
And then Neith Hunter ends up
prunes or something,
throwing up like roaches and stuff. But there's it's not done like in a good like Hong Kong movie like Box's Omen or something. You don't, there's no real impact. You don't actually see her vomiting up real insects. So there's nothing like that. There's no proper gross kind of stuff to go with either. Right. And there's bugs everywhere, there's roaches everywhere. Not to mention Clint Howard.
And Clint Howard.
Clint Howard seems to be playing some kind of...
Also playing a character named Ricky, which is ostensibly maybe a way to connect it to...
Maybe.
To the... And I think they connected it by, like, putting it on the television or something. Wasn't there...
Yes, there's clips from part 3.
Part 3 actually, on the television, yes.
Right. And I quite like how we introduce... I mean, I always like seeing Clint Howard. He's good value for money. Right. I like how they introduce him, because he seems like a vagrant, and he picks up like a half-eaten half-eaten burger out of a garbage can. Insects. And he's like, oh, fuck, no cheese. And then he just eats it. That's quite good. He's good at doing that stuff. And he seems to be involved as well. He might even end up... There's a couple of scenes where we don't know if Neith Hunter is actually hallucinating, or if this strange cult is actually making
her into an insect, or
they're putting these insect larva things in her stomach. Clint Howard might end up impregnating her. She starts burning as well at some point, doesn't she? Like she's going to spontaneously.
There's a lot of like really random kind of mysterious hallucinatory imagery with bugs and stuff, right? Doesn't all kind of tie together or kind of go anywhere or make any sense.
Whether it once upon a time made sense on a script level, it's very difficult to tell.
I get the impression it was just sort of like hey, we got Screaming Mad George. He wants to do some
Right,
bug.
right.
Yeah, here we go. I got kind of a vague idea about stuff to do with bugs and witches.
Here's
and
some
cults.
stuff that didn't quite fit into
I was
society.
like, okay, I'll do all this. It'll be really cool looking.
Right.
Let's put it all together and mash it together and make a random,
Right.
a vague story.
And there's a brief glimpse of Psychotronic magazine in Neath Hunter's apartment, one of my favourite old fanzines that no longer exists, unfortunately. A huge influence on me, but yeah, so it was kind of fun to see that. It's not as boring as the third one.
It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I was going to be really just dreadful. It was like
very slapdash.
There was a lot of again, the slap screaming Mad George made it watchable in terms of like just the special, the level of quality of special effects.
Yes, but of course I'd have liked more of it.
The rest of it was just sort of like it was just a mess. I mean, obviously there's
But that didn't stop them for going at one more try.
One try?
Yeah. Again, Yuzna didn't direct this one, but he co-wrote and produced.
Yeah.
Silent Night 1995, The Toy Maker,
right.
aka Kira Hobi in Japan.
Killer Hobby.
That's how I first saw it on Japanese VHS. This was from 1991, directed by one Martin Kittrosser, who I know nothing about.
So, I mean, like, to their credit, they tried really hard to get this going, because they had an 89, 90, and 91, right? So they're trying to really get this this franchise going. But
so this one, so Jane Higginson is mom. She looked really familiar to me.
Me too.
Oh, sorry, forgot to mention, in the previous film we also had Alice Beasley, right? As the Janice in the office there. Who, again, one of those really familiar faces. Did she look really familiar to you?
Yeah, but I don't know.
I couldn't, but I was like, oh, I've seen her in a million things.
I know exactly what you mean. I couldn't figure out.
She's got a very distinctive look.
She was in something.
Right. So something comedic.
Yes,
maybe?
exactly. I
Yes.
saw her as like almost like a Rita Rudner kind of.
Yeah, something along those lines. Anyway, the fifth one, Jane Higginson plays this mom, and her husband was killed by one Christmas. Someone drops like a present off on their doorstep, right?
Oh, I got it. Sorry, just to interrupt you. She was in Moonlighting, the TV show with Bruce Willis.
Oh, I never watched that.
She was in that, and Legally Blonde.
I never saw
that. And some other kind of low budget.
Well, I've seen her from somewhere, and she's just got like one of those
kind of faces,
very distinctive looks. So someone ends up leaving a present on the doorstep, and it turns out to be like some weird sphere or orb or something, and some arms come out of it.
It looks like a Santa.
Yeah, grabs his head, and then he falls on a fire poker and dies.
Right.
And his little boy witnesses this, and he ends up kind of traumatized and kind of mute as well.
To their credit, at least they were trying to go back to the idea of it being a holiday movie.
Yes, that's true. This is at least Christmassy, but I'm not sure if it's very Silent Night, Deadly Night-y.
No, it isn't.
So emotionally disturbed little boy and the mother worried about him, blah blah blah, and there's a toy shop, a nearby toy shop run by Mickey Rooney, as Joe Petto and his son Pino. So if you don't see where this is going, then you're just not trying, right? I mean, fucking hell, talk about signposting.
Yeah, really.
I mean, Neath Hunter from the original is in this as well, actually, again, as the neighbour, right? As is Clint Howard, very, very briefly. Right. So I'm still not entirely sure actually what was happening in this film.
Yeah, I mean, it was...
apparently,
it was a real strange thing.
A character explains at one point that maybe Mickey Rooney's child was killed, or his wife was killed or something at some point,
and
therefore he doesn't like to see anyone else having a happy childhood, or so he makes these booby-trapped toys.
And gives them out on Christmas.
Including this thing called Larry the Larvae, which is quite good, which goes through someone's head.
Which is why would anyone buy
Yes.
It wasn't cute or anything.
Rocket skates.
Which end up all these army men that kind of shoot a bunch of people.
Like small soldiers. Oddly enough, shooting. And then surprise or not, if you've got half a brain,
Yeah.
Pinot turns out to be a robot,
robot.
or an android,
Yeah.
and he wants, I'm your son
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
He wants.
This was a real odd. Like,
Yeah.
he's, like trying to hump her. Like, I'm your son. I'm your son.
yes,
Right?
and he wants to kill the real son because he wants, you're my
'cause
mommy.
You're my mommy now, and so that he wants
Yeah.
to kill the kid so that he can be the son. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
and then Mickey Rooney's in a Santa Claus costume, but he's crazy, but then he gets killed. But
Right.
I don't really know. So, or maybe he was trying to just protect everybody from the killer robot and the whole.
Right.
I don't know. Right.
Screaming Mad George effects again, but less than
less.
previous.
But then
leftovers.
They've also got like an animatronics guy in this one too. Like, it's not Screaming Mad George. So I think they've got another guy so to do all the little toys and stuff. Right.
Yeah.
So.
I found this one actually, well, certainly less boring than the third one.
Right.
And oddly enough, because it's so kind of just, it's kind of, in a way, even though you know Pinot is going to be Pinot, it's still an odd one. It's not quite, doesn't quite know where it's going.
I mean, I knew he was going to be something to do with
yeah,
that.
but it goes a very circuitous route.
And I was like, whoa! But like when it actually happened, I was kind of like, I still didn't really expect it to. I was like, really? He's you even see like a picture of him from like years and years ago, and he hasn't changed at all, right?
Right.
So you know, like there's something, you know, like he's obviously doesn't age, or something, you know, like, but
right.
I was like, really, even, I think I was like, really, a robot, like
gonna,
really, that's what you're going with.
Yeah. It's pretty thin gruel. But oddly enough, because of that, it was less boring for me just because I wasn't quite sure where it was going than the previous one. So weirdly, this, if I'm going ranking,
is it second favorite,
third favorite.
Third favorite. After
I would say second is the best one. The first one because, well, it's the first one, and it's got the good bits that are in the second
5, 4, 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably would say.
Yeah.
2, 1, 5, 4, 3.
Yeah. Ideally, none of them really. If you've got, if you have a life,
exactly.
And if it has to be one, Eric Freeman in part 2 is the peak.
And if you watch 2, you're also watching part 1 because
exactly
basically it's the same movie.
Yeah.
Right? So, and also like you see all of part 1 in it.
Yes,
so
and I suppose then if you're a Pinocchio completist, you might go for the toy maker.
A completist.
Yes.
Along with the
so there we go.
Roberto Benigni one, right? So.
We rocketed through.
Through 5 Silent Night, Deadly Nights.
Yeah.
We took the hit here, so you're welcome.
Yeah. So you don't have to.
You don't have to, exactly, right? So
have yourself a merry little Christmas.
Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Christmas. Oh, they're taking us off. Good night.